because of the COVID, and there are students not doing. So okay, now I'm all yours. Okay. Thank you very much for last week.
Yeah, I really enjoyed your presentation.
It was a good. I think it was a good conference, and it's not like meeting in life, in real life, but it worked quite well.
I thought it came off as well as, they did a great job with the it looked so professional and it ran so smoothly, and I liked having the time to just ask questions rather than spend, you travel and then you sit there and listen to somebody talk.
Yeah.
So
So that was nice. And did you see the film I sent you on with the ukulele?
yes, I did. I had
Yeah.
no idea that it was everybody in the audience was going to get involved. I thought they were just watching. It just got better and better.
Yeah, and that guy. I don't remember his name now. He's called the Ukulele Man in Sweden, and he's been doing that. He's in his 70s now, and he was one of my students when I just was started teaching. He was one of the students I had, because he did a second career really late in life, but that's nice. And it's most of these groups playing, they are quite similar. They are doing this sing along
Yeah.
just like you described in your presentation there.
I think it's such a nice activity.
Mhm.
And as robots and AI take over, we need something to do besides drugs and video games. I mean, I'm all for drugs and video games, but we have to have something else to do with our time.
Yeah.
Um, so I just was so excited that, there's that idea of 6 stages of separation where you know everyone in the world through 6 different people. And now I know somebody who's met Max Martin, so
Yeah.
it's
No,
really great.
he's a very nice guy, and the project. I don't. In the presentation, we talked a little about Dennis Pop, who was the mentor of Max Martin.
Right.
Do you know the background story of Max Martin's career?
I don't know anything about it. I read, the Sound Machine by
Yeah,
Seabrook.
Seabrook.
That's
Yeah.
all I've been able to discover. I mean, I didn't even know that the Swedes were behind all the hits. I always
Mm.
liked ABBA, but I had no idea that, this is where the popular music center had shifted. And I don't know anything about it. I don't know how you were able to contact him. And so,
No, that's we've been trying to get an interview with him for quite some time, and he doesn't do any
yeah,
interviews. So he's done. At that time, this was in November, he had been interviewed by journalists 3 times, proper interviews. And I'm not sure about now, but I haven't seen any new interviews with him. And strictly turning down all requests for interviews, and never before interviewed by an academic. So he was a bit excited by meeting a professor.
yeah.
That was his view of it. Oh, this is interesting. The first time I've been talking to a real professor. So that was, so it was, the roles were a bit changed from what I expected. He's a very humble guy. He's extremely easy to work with, and I was just after 5 minutes I was feeling very strong. If I want to do recordings, this is a guy I would like to work with.
Yeah.
And he has that the style of him is that when he listens to you, he really listens to you. He understands what you're trying to say. Some people, they don't really listen, they just pretend to listen, but he is. And the same when we listen to music together, he comprehends all the music at you know, like some people do. Some people has to listen many times, but he is very fast to understand what's important, what's the melody line, what's the bass line. Here we should do this and that and stuff like that.
What did you listen to, and why were you
No,
listening?
we listened to some of his music, and he was very interested in also in meeting the students, listen to their music. We didn't listen to their music together, but he also described and also have some descriptions from people working with him. It goes very fast for him to analyze a song, for example. That's one of his. And like he said, most important probably to listen a lot to music and understand, and the love for music is the most important. So, did you see the slides we had in the presentation?
Yes, I made some fast screenshots too. I hope you don't mind.
No,
I showed some
cool.
of them to my students this week about summarizing the research and comparing the different three people you studied.
Yeah, and it was so interesting to get the Irving Berlin interview, and that's 100 years back. You know, it was published in 1920 in October. So I think it was 11th October or something like that. Do you have that interview with Irving Berlin?
I'll have to look at it. I think you gave the citation on the slide, so I'll look it
Yeah,
up.
yeah, or I can send it to you because I got it from Joe Bennett.
Yeah, and that was another common ground. I realized we're going to be friends because I'm a big Joe Bennett fan. I met him at MIA,
Yeah,
and he's a wonderful person from what I could find out in a short amount of time.
yeah. No, he's a nice guy, really, and he's also been supervised for one of my colleagues working here. So that's no, he's a good guy, and the idea with the research project, we started with Dennis Pop. Dennis Pop, he was a DJ. His father was a scientist, researcher, and he didn't go to school much, Dennis Pop, but he was a very successful DJ, and he started to. This was when I was working in a recording studio, and we were sending the bass drum and the lead vocals to his team, and they made remixes of songs, and they charged around $150 for doing a remix, and they because you know at that time the DJs, I'm talking about maybe 1990, around 1980, end of the 80s. You were allowed to play music at the club, but were not allowed to sell the music if you did a remix unless you had the authorization from the copyright owner. But you can always, you know, play a cover band can play any song they want as long as it's published. So what these DJs did, they did remixes of popular songs and did their own versions, and that became very popular at some clubs in Stockholm. So whenever he was playing, was the DJ, it was sold out. And after a while, he started to do remixes for recording artists, so we could send over material and they did a alternative mix, so to say, or a remix of a song, and you paid $150 for it, and you got what they never did the remix of it. If you wanted another mix, you paid another $150. That's how it worked.
Nice.
So it was and they did it for maybe a year or two or three. And some of these songs became quite popular, so they started working more as regular record producers. And one of the bands who were, they had, for example, one guy called Dr. Alban, who was a dentist. That's why they called him Dr. Alban. He came, his parents came from Nigeria, and he made a song called Hello Africa, and that was a big hit in Europe. And also one band called Ace of Base. I think they were on #1 in America for on the Billboard. And what was special with Dennis Pop was that he changed a bit of the lyrics. So when it was how to say bullshit lyrics, he changed them to be something meaningful.
Hmm.
So that was one of the ideas. The lyrics, it must be about something real, just like Irving Berlin says, more or less. Yeah. And the other thing, what Dennis Pop was doing, that was trying to have fun all the time, not to he made a lot of money. He wore the same T-shirt all the time, drove a quite old car. He didn't really care about how much money he made. And that was very, what do you say, prestige? I'm sorry about my English, and I had to find
fantastic. It's so much better than my Swedish, I'll tell you right now. It's
well,
wonderful.
you know, so he was free from what you call it, prestige.
Yeah.
Just trying to have fun, and sometimes when it didn't work, they had they have these competitions with his producer friends. Maybe one of them took some something like this and hide it somewhere. So they had to go around in the and gave each other clues where in the city to find it. Oh, it must be in the bar. So they found it behind some bottles in a bar. So I had to drink all these bottles. You know, have these crazy things just to have, because it was, you know, an industry of having fun, more or less, not the music, what we call a proper music industry. And that became more and more successful. And they become, for example, Backstreet Boys was one of the bands who wanted to have them as producers and other artists. And one of the guys at that time, Max Martin, was 1920 or something like that.
Sorry, I have to go turn something off.
Yeah, he was in his 20s, and he was signed by the Cheiron record company. They started a record company, and he was signed as an artist, Max Martin. And they made I don't remember the name of the band now. They made a record that didn't sell, but Dennis Pop found out Max Martin, he could play the piano, and he had a good sense for music production. So he became the apprentice, more or less, of Dennis Pop. And they started working together and formed a team that was very strong and started working with different artists. Then Dennis Pop got cancer, and he died just after half a year or something. He was getting ill quite fast. And then Max Martin more or less took over that, and then he started working with, for example, Britney Spears. Dennis Pop had met Britney Spears, but Max Martin took over that. And after that, they had so many wanted to work with them, and since then it's been rolling on more or less all the time. When Max Martin, the background to the interview was that I was called on, I think it was on a Sunday evening or something like that. Are you free on Tuesday evening? Yes. Can you interview Max Martin? Yes, please. And that's
No, I'm going to be busy. I'm sorry. I've got a dinner planned.
Yeah. So that was, I had quite short preparation time, but that was good because I've been doing this project. So it was together with a colleague, Elinor Giselason Ferrari, and we interviewed him. And we didn't know anything more than that he would come here around 4:00, and at 5:00 we had a room booked for the students, and we didn't tell any of the students until the day before, I think, that it was going to happen, and it was packed. We could fill it 5 times, so it was a long line of people not coming in there. And we agreed not to. I have it all on tape. and it was in Swedish, so it doesn't make sense to you, I guess. But and we agreed not to. Well, I have it for research purposes, so I can
Right.
show it to my research colleagues.
Yeah.
So I can show it to you if we are research colleagues. You see that's, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can translate it so for you if you want to, but not for
Yeah.
to put it on internet or so. That we agreed on that,
Yeah.
and also we agreed on that I should not quote. So I could do a direct quotation from him without checking with him. So that's so whenever all the citations are more or less, this is what he was saying, but I'm not directly quoting him. So that's what the agreement. And after the interview, we had some mail contact, but I'm not sure if he's in America or in Sweden after. So. And when he came here, it was in November, in the 29th or something of November, and it was quite cold. So he apologized that he didn't wear any gloves when we shook hands. His hands were cold. That's how it started, and we sat down and talked for a while, and I had the opportunity to check out the Dennis Pop model, check it with him, and he agreed on most of it, and. We talked about some stuff, and the reason why he wanted to go to the Royal College, he has been here before and giving a prize for music and mental health researchers on one occasion. Our deputy vice chancellor met him at such an occasion, and the same day he talked to one of his producer colleagues, and he asked him, why do you produce music? They were just having a coffee and discussing, and he said, oh, the most important for me was that I met a very, I don't remember who it was, very experienced producer when I was in school. That's why I became a producer, this guy said. And Ilya is one of his colleagues. Yeah. And oh, maybe I should do that too, Max Martin said to him. Then later in the evening, he met the vice chancellor, and Max Martin asked the vice chancellor, would it be interesting for you students if I came over one of the
No, I don't think we'd like that. Sorry.
So that's exactly how it happened. And he said, I've never done this before. And it was nice. And and if he, in the end, he said, if you're interested, maybe we could do it once more. So that's.
Well, we'll call you back. Maybe.
Yeah. So you see, so from his point of view, he doesn't see himself as such an interesting guy. He's just doing what he's good at. That's all. He's no different from you or me, and especially in his way of viewing people. I would say that he give all the people the same respect. And there was one guy who was really fame struck with him, who couldn't really talk because he was a guy from China, an Asian guy who's been studying here for a while, and he was really, like meeting Messias or somebody. And it took him maybe 4 or 5 minutes to ask the question, and Max Martin stood there waiting for him.
That's amazing. Yeah, that says a lot.
Giving him all the time in the world, and that was he paid this guy so much respect. And this guy, he asked him something really stupid, and he understood. Most people would say, oh, go fuck yourself or something. No, he was, oh, how do you mean that? Oh, just talking to that. So I'm very, very impressed by Max Martin. His way, I think he could do well in almost any work.
Are the other 2 interviews that you mentioned he just did, are those in Swedish?
Yep.
I just love to read anything he said, take pictures of his footprints, I'm just anything that to understand more about him.
And from his I can tell you some of the stuff we talked about, and we will as I said, I hope I said, the book about Dennis Pop will be in 3 years now, so we're yeah.
So that's what your book's about, is Dennis Pop. Okay.
It's about Dennis Pop. It's not about Max Martin.
Okay.
Because I would say if I called him and said, I want to make a book about you, he would say, no, why should you do that? That's not important. But about Dennis Pop, because Dennis Pop, he was the mentor of not only Max Martin, for some other guys too. Like, I'll show you one of them. Wait a second. I get the book here. Andreas Karlsson. I can't find the book now. Maybe somebody's borrowed it. I got lots and lots of books here. And Andreas Karlsson and everybody. It's when at that time I met Dennis Pop. I mostly worked with one of his colleagues, Emil Hellman, which we at the time thought were better than Dennis Pop. It's quite interesting. But Dennis Pop, he had that ability, as to say, to be like the paternalistic, being like a father to everyone, and still being the guy you really want to play with as a kid. This is both combining those two sides. And I think he serves as a role model, more or less, for Max Martin and some of the other Swedish producers who are doing fine.
You started to say what some of the themes you talked about, and then I interrupted you. Things you talked about with Max.
Yeah, and for example, when he grew up, Max Martin, he grew up in a little bit outside Stockholm here. His parents, I think his mother was a teacher. Nothing special with his family. They had a piano at home. He played the French horn in a music school. And he started playing with a band, and learned quite early that if the band is going to be good, we need to rehearse. So when his friends were out having a party, he went to the rehearsal room, and they rehearsed, worked very hard all the time. Then he got this, he got a job. I asked him, because he had a job sometime at the record store. And I asked him, what did you learn from that? And he said, I learned that was not in the part of the music industry I want to be in. I want to be on the other side of the music industry. But of course, after working in a record store, I learned why people want to listen to some music and why they don't want to listen to some other music. So I think that was quite important. That's kind of similar to Dennis Pop, who was a DJ and learned very well what are people dancing to. So that's one of the things we are discussing a bit. And then he, after starting working with Dennis Pop at Cheiron, he worked very, very much doing lots of recordings. And for the last, maybe after Dennis Pop died, he continued working. They shut down Cheiron because it didn't. They all were very depressed after Dennis Pop died, so they didn't really want to continue working. There are still people working in the same studio, but it's renamed, and Max Martin doesn't work there anymore. And
the location or something.
The location is still it's still open. It's still records made there, but there are other people working there, and they closed down. And after I asked him what's most important, what he would say most important. He said it's the work. He said when some people have success, for example, the number one on the chart or something like that, they want to go drink champagne and party. I said, I've never done that. I always went directly back to into the control in the studio, continue working. And I asked why. Otherwise, somebody else would do the thing I want to do. And that's what all the people we've been interviewing around him say. Both he and Dennis Pop, they love to be in the studio. They love to make music. That's what's the most important thing is. They're not looking for fame. They are not looking for. They made a fortune, of course, made lots of money. That's not so important. That's not the intrinsic motivation. The intrinsic motivation is the love to music.
Um, I thought one thing that's, I think it was number 7 that Irving Berlin said that you need to have melodious vowels
Yep.
and open vowels. And I read some, maybe in Songbook, Max Martin saying that the meaning of the words didn't matter as much as the sound of them and the rhythm. And I think maybe that's an advantage of being Swedish, that
Yep.
you're looking for the tones. And I was just, like the Beastie Boys, I Want It That Way. I mean, nobody really knows what the song's about, but just they hit the right vowels on the right notes, and it makes you want to sing along. And I was thinking about other singers that do that for me, like Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody. There's just certain notes that they hit that
Mhm.
I think light your brain up. And so I started making a
Yeah.
list of great songwriters, and they all, unique voices: Paul McCartney, Bob Dylan, Joni Mitchell, Elton John, Sting, the Bee Gees, Martin Gaye, Stevie Wonder, Dolly Parton. It just goes on and on. They each have a unique quality, and I think it's when the songs hit the right vowel and are held out on the right note, oftentimes you leap up to a high note, that's essential. And I think I don't know how Swedish, it sounds to me like you have some open vowels, and maybe it's a foreign language that can cross over. There's things in common, ABBA, there's certain, um, songs that just, you don't really know what the songs are about, but you just love singing along with those certain notes.
Yeah. Probably also that you, at least in your own imagination, gets an intrinsic meaning, even if
Yeah,
it's not in the lyrics.
yeah,
I think that's very true, and I think it's Seabrook who discussed that maybe the Swedish way of talking English is not correct, but it works. Uh, there's one example in I think it's a Ace of Base song with Dennis Pop, who was very clear about this. He said the song must have a meaning. For example, with Dr. Alban, it's called Hello Africa. It's a song about him singing about Hello Africa. Tell me how you're doing. Tell me how you're feeling, motherland. It's about a black guy who's living in Sweden, came here with his parents from Nigeria. And I think that was important for Max Martin and also for these Swedes too. It must have, the meaning must be important, but the words are not so important. So you get the difference there.
yeah.
But and there's was one example. I think it's with Ace of Base. I think Seabrook has in his books where he says, "Let's go out and catch some tan." That's how you say it in Swedish when you want to go out in the sun and get sunburn. But you don't say that like that in English, do you?
No,
No.
because we don't have to worry about it so much. We don't have long winters,
No.
long nights, and we just, like I hide from the sun. So
Yeah. So let's go out and catch some tan. That's something you would never have written, but it works well in that song.
yeah. Huh.
And when I discuss that with the student, I think it's a bit like Julio Iglesias. It's kind of sexy that it sounds that he's Latin background,
Yeah.
and maybe it's the same with the Swedish. I'm not sure. It's very hard for us to see that, but what's definitely is that we have in the Swedish folk music. Where if you go to ABBA, for example, we had Benny Andersson here from one of our conferences not a few years back, and he was talking very much about the influence of the Swedish folk music.
Mm.
And of course did you and I, no, I think it was with Keith Hatchink in one of the breakout groups we discussed a little about the Swedish, please stop me if you were in that group.
No, I missed that.
Yeah, we were talking a little at the conference now last week. We were talking about the Swedish melody, and one thing I'm not sure, it's speculation, of course, because one of the explanations for that Swedish music has worked so well is kids play a lot. We have music schools for not every children, but almost every children can play in schools, and but also that the way we connect the language with the music, because if you take Irving Berlin, he was born in Russia, but he had a Jewish background. His parents came to America when he was 5, 6, 7 years old. He probably continued speaking Russian with them, but he had that Jewish tradition of music, Russian traditional music coming to America, coming to the melting pot of all these traditions in America. And of course, that worked out very well for him.
Yeah.
And maybe the same with, if we go ahead maybe 50 years with all the, say, Elvis Presley, all the songs made in the after the Second World War, to speak, say from White Christmas and onwards, it's a lot of American music, and of course with all the Afro-American music. If you take all that and bring it over to Europe, to Sweden, some of it came to Liverpool. Liverpool was a big harbor, and that's why we had Beatles and so many other bands coming from Liverpool. They were influenced by American music. But the American influence in Sweden in music has been very big, and the first Swedish number one on the American Billboard was Björn Skifs in 1974. That's the same year that ABBA won the Eurovision Song Contest with a song called Waterloo. And since then, I think more and more Swedes who before that, Swedish songwriters, they were looking for doing songs in Swedish, and for the Swedish market, some in the German market, they say, oh, it's possible to do it in English as well. It's possible to sell music and to gain success in not only in America, but also in UK and of course the rest of the world. So ABBA, for example, they were very popular in Australia as well, and in Asia also. And so I think that's why. How does it work? Probably that the Swedish language, in the way we talk Swedish, works kind of well within how to form the melodies. I think that's probably one reason, but I'm not sure about it.
That's interesting. The folk influence on ABBA. Everybody listens to African American music, but then here's some melodic contours maybe, or phrase structures or something from Swedish music that's overlaid on that and gives it a new fresh sound. Because it seemed like with ABBA there was a lot da 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 da, like little unexpected leaps, and maybe that's the inflection of the language or the folk tunes. And I think maybe I was thinking a lot about the phonemes last night, and how maybe English has just become the international language of pop music, and that when you hear those sounds, you think pop music. But now we've got Korean pop music coming finally, and they're going to have a different set of tones, and that may be as much, I don't know why BTS doesn't win all the awards they're due, but that seems like the next wave is going to be Asian sounds mixed in with pop music.
Yeah, probably. We see what happens, because like everything comes and goes a bit. Nothing lasts forever.
Yeah. What do you think about Spotify, Echo Nest? Are you following them, and how the algorithmic monitoring of what people listen to and how long? Do you think in 20 years or less, AI programs will be composing the music for you in real time and feeding you the music that's getting the most dilation of your pupils and your heart rate going up? Like they'll be making medicines that are structured to your DNA. Do you think it's going to be possible?
That's a very, very good question. I'm not sure really. It's um, I think music is if we see music as a dialogue, for example, if we improvise, we never start from zero. We always start from something.
Mm-hmm.
And if I say potatoes, you say
Right.
potatoes. No,
Yeah.
potatoes.
I
You say
say
okay. You say potatoes. You don't say okay. Now we got something going on there. So that's not the Irving Berlin, is it? I say tomatoes. You
it's
say
from his generation. Yeah.
yeah. The Broadway song or some musical
Yeah.
song. But if it's a dialogue, I would say if you and I were writing a song now, we would if I add something, you would add something with all your experience, knowledge,
Stop.
you know, or with everything you know, you would add that. Same
Yeah.
would I do, and it's very complicated to build what do we call AI machines or software
But if the
doing that.
software knows every song you've listened to in the past and how long you listened and at what point you changed the song because maybe
Yeah.
you always change when there's no guitar solo within 2 minutes, then now
Mhm.
the songs that it's reformatting for you now have guitar solos at 1 minute and 30 seconds
Yeah.
and
But it's still if we are I think people are more unpredictable than software is. It's Friday and if I go on the street and there are lots of restaurants, I probably go to a restaurant I've been before. I probably order something I had before, but maybe tonight I say, oh, I want something with garlic or whatever it is,
yeah.
and, or I want something different, just maybe because I've been talking to you, and that's very hard for a computer to calculate. And when it comes to art, most of the stuff, say for example, if I have the idea about the song, if I have the idea about the melody, I think the computer can do the rest. But I have to add maybe the meaning of the song, the structure. But sometimes, just like you said, in songs, you understand what the song is about, but you don't really say it, and that's when it.
I
Uh,
think AI will replace a lot of other things before it replaces songwriting.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's another reason for us to get into music because we enjoy making music with other people, and I think if anything has some protection from robots and AI, I think it's the arts and music. It's
songwriting is. I don't. I did a test for when we had at another university I worked at earlier. We had to read. Uh, newspaper from newspapers items from short news items from newspapers and decide was it made by a machine or made by man, and we did 7 out of 10 right, but the publishers organization here, they did the other way. They had only 3 right out of 7, but
yeah,
most of the stuff that we were analyzing, that was stuff that even if it's a human doing it, you do it more or less the same.
yeah.
Saying what you copy yourself a bit. There's nothing original about it. So
I
that
read
computer,
I read some
computer can do
research
that very
about
well.
I read some research. I think it's David Cope had written some programs. It's already out of date, the source, but
Mhm.
people had a hard time telling whether it was composed by a computer or a robot or an AI. But I think when you start mixing in the lyrics, and I think there's something about songs that would be harder. Sony has a program where they made a song in the style of the Beatles, and it sounds on the surface like the Beatles, but it doesn't move you. It might work for
No.
civilians, but not for real music lovers.
And if you take Kenny Gamble and Huff,
Yes.
the
No, no, no,
the
I
the,
don't.
the sound of what do you call it? Sound of Philadelphia.
No.
he was. I think his name is Kenny Gamble. Gamble.
I don't know.
No, he was in Philadelphia in the 70s doing one of the songs is Me and Mrs. Jones.
Oh yeah, I know that one.
Yeah. And he was in one of the conferences in the art of record production. He was the keynote there and a celebrity interview. And it was interesting. He told the story of it. Me and Mrs. Jones, we got a thing going on, but we both know it's wrong. Every day we meet at the same cafe, 5 o'clock, holding hands. And he told us the background to the story because they were writing songs. Lots of songs all the time, and recording. And when they were writing songs, they went down to a cafe, and every day they could see a couple coming from each direction, meeting at the cafe, sitting there. It was obvious that they had other relationships. And they looked so sweet. And they say, we got a thing going on. We both know that it's wrong. And it was obvious. And they said, if they hadn't done that observation, they could never have written that song. And it's a great song.
What's your background? Are you a songwriter, engineer, producer, and what do you teach?
I teach music production, and I'm a musician at start, and then I did I did a music producer education in the 80s, started working in a recording studio, still working a lot as musician. Then I did my PhD later in music education, specializing on music production.
What do you play? What's your instrument?
Bass. Yeah.
Do you have a songwriting class at your school?
Yeah, we have in the music producer program we have songwriting. We don't have. It's a bit different in Sweden compared to the American the way American programs are. But we have songwriting in the
I
curriculum.
teach a class in the fall every year for songwriters. It's for music production students who take a songwriting class. Most of them aren't planning to be songwriters, but so I try to make it songwriting for producers and have them. They each write a song for 2 weeks, and then they get in a group of 4 people and pick which of the songs, if they're a group of 3 or 4, they want to re-record, and then they have a week to try to record it. But from trying to increase the emotion and the meaning of the song, not to make perfect compressor settings and everything, but try to. I don't know what the schedule is there, but it would be fun to have our students listen to each other's songs.
Yeah. That would be great.
Is it taught at a certain time of the year, or is it all year long, or?
We got the different courses at different time of the year. So and there's one group I think working right now in with that.
Because I have a group until the beginning of December.
Mm.
They wrote a folk or country song. I mean, I don't make them use the style, but they had a simple refrain for their first song. The second song has a contrasting bridge. I try to do that have them do that in pop style. The third song has a pre-chorus. The fourth song is going to be a track and hook song. I got that idea from Seabrook's book. And then the last one, they make a music video. And
cool.
It'd be fun to get comments on each other's songs and just, have some exchange.
Yeah, that would be very good.
I think I sent you a link to in my first long email with a link to this website that I have a song from each student from the last few years. And then there's a professional songwriter who comes in the last day and listens to those and makes comments. And I recorded his comments. There's videos of Mark Colley giving them feedback too. But it would be great to have some.
Is that on the Robert on your site where you have?
Look at my first email, or I'll send it to you here in the chat. It's like songwriting. Here it is. Do you have your chat open in Zoom?
I'll open it too. Let's see. Some.
Do you have your chat window open in Zoom?
Uh, yeah, I just trying to find it here. There it is.
I'm just sending it to you in the chat too.
Yeah, got it.
Anyway, Mark Colley, he does a nice job listening to the students. There was one out of the 30 or 40 students that I had, there was one guy last year that I thought, that did that kind of work where he's in the studio all the time, and he and his sister came up with some things that I thought were really beautiful, and they're off trying to become, you know, songwriters now. But, but it sounds like maybe we have similar kind of population of people who are maybe primarily interested in production, but I think it's good to try to write songs so you understand, like trying to make the bridge sound contrasting. And somebody had, I went to a conference and they suggested making a spreadsheet with all, the rows are all the different instruments and the columns are the different sections of the song, and you color in the cells where there's that instrument's being used in that part of the song. And so I've had people analyze Max Martin's songs and had the idea if you analyzed all his hits, you might start seeing some patterns, like he always, drops out the piano during the chorus or something.
What did you find out?
Well, I'm a divergent thinker. I think of a lot of things, but I don't do the hard work to actually follow through. So I haven't really gone too much farther, but I just used an example on some of Martin's hits to show that things drop out and come back in. They're not constant all the way through. And then for the fourth song, I have them make a diagram of their own song that way.
I like the what do you call the toolkit, the diagram in the end.
It looks kind of like an onion. Let me pull it up here. The first song is in the middle, the green one. And so I read a book about making graphic syllabi. So this could be kind of the syllabus. I don't know if you make syllabi for your classes, but rather than putting your syllabus in a bunch of text and then having the person have to translate that into something your brain can work with, you put it in a graphic form from the beginning. So the first song, they use 1, 4, and 5 chords, and they have a refrain chorus. And the second song, the pink one, that's in pop style, and they can add some other chords besides 1, 4, and 5, and they work on the bridge and so on. So it kind of, this shows how the 4 songs that they work on, kind of the tools. And I took a online songwriting class from Berkeley, because I'm not a professional songwriter, and yet I'm teaching the songwriting class. And what's his name? Kind of the head of that program, says there's no rules, only tools. And so I get them to try to just develop some tools and not think that the song has to be the ultimate expression of their feeling and the song that they want everybody to listen to that represents them, but rather just learn some tools, and then you can use these tools when you write your own songs, or you can use them to analyze other people's songs and see how they work.
That's good. I think one of the here at the Royal College, all the students who apply here, because the education is free in Sweden, that's different from America, of course, and most countries, and it's free for Swedes and also members of the European Union to study in Sweden. And so we have maybe 200 students applying every year, and we have 16 for the bachelor program. It's 16 students accepted every year, and they write songs to be accepted here. So we have application tests for them. And most of them write songs, and it's kind of strange, really, that so they are songwriters. Many of them are songwriters when they come here, and then they study different things. For example, how to program web and stuff like that with the music. So many of them, they come here as songwriters, but they when they leave, they are interested in doing other stuff, and
Right.
most of them get quite good jobs in the music industry. So that's
Yeah,
interesting.
I think if we have a lot of students come in who want to be recording engineers, and I think the ones who are the most open and entrepreneurial end up leaving with a whole bunch of different skills, how to do video and interviews and uh, some live sound and there's just so many ways to apply music technology skills. So these 16 students, what track are they on? Is it music production or
It's
songwriting?
called music production, yes.
Okay.
It was called media and music production before, but now it's called only music production.
And it's it inside a school of music, I suppose? Is it there's kind
Yeah,
of a conservatory around it? Do they
yeah.
have to take an audition on their instruments to be in your program?
Not on the instruments. They need to play an instrument, and they in the application they have to do a theory test, music theory and audio sound and theory. They have to send in 3 songs before that. We say we have around 40-50 coming here for tests of the 200, so we don't take everybody here. And they also have to play piano or guitar or the chord instrument, and they can show whatever musical ability they want to show, and many of them sing songs or play instruments. That's what's normal, but they could also have a show a composition or something like that, but that doesn't really happen. The most normal thing is that they sing or play, and both. And there's also an interview where they can explain a little more about the songs that they have sent in. How did they compose it, and how did they record it, and stuff like that. And some of the stuff they send in is very, very good. Very good.
I know you must be busy with your book, and it sounds wonderful. I was noticing that he lived a short amount of time, and I asked my students yesterday who else died at age 35 because they have a problem with their music history class. And so I tried to tie it in with music history. I said, what important composer died when he was 35 too? And they said Mozart. And I said, yeah, it's sort of like he's the Mozart of Swedish pop music. But I wish you would write uh, maybe an article about Dennis Pop and Max Martin and their philosophy of
Mm.
composing, and what you learned from talking to him in English, because there's just everybody around the world is dying to know who's this Max Martin guy. You search for him and you always see the same pictures of him leaning into the microphone at the Grammys to accept his award. And um, now I
But
understand a little more that he's just busy and humble. That maybe
he's
that's why
busy.
he's
He's one of the, I would say he's one of the nicest guy I met and in the way I feel a very strong respect for him. And what he was saying all the time, he said something like, I'm not a good son, I'm not a good brother, I'm not, because when I work I forgot to make all these phone calls, I forget birthdays and stuff like that because he's filled with the music so much.
Yeah.
And but he also he said something like, now I think he's 48 now or something like that, that in the collaborations he's doing, sometimes he adds not so very much. There are others who do most of the work, but he said it's like being a chef. If you cook all day and the master chef comes in very late and adds some spices and makes it good, that's how it works sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's, but also that he shows, it's very clear that he shows people very much respect, and that I think that is probably one difference, not to all Swedes, but some people in Sweden are comparing. When I was working with I used to produce sports television, or work with sports television production, and was sometimes in America, and it was if you compare a Swedish television team and an American team, the American team, they always say yes sir, yes or no. They do everything to please you. But if you ask them, like you're never on the same level. But in Sweden, you're very often on the same level. If we have a editorial meeting in Sweden, you don't know really who the boss is, because everyone's opinion is on the table. And that's not the case in America, because sometimes sometimes things go wrong because they are a bit afraid of telling their manager to say to the next manager, you get what I mean? It's
Yeah, and I would think it's really important now that songs are made by 3 or 4 producers, that a team can get, work as positively together as possible.
Hmm.
I suppose in the past that songwriting teams were, very collaborative too, but
Yeah.
that kind of cooperation, seems
Hmm.
like it would be helpful especially now.
Hmm. So it is different, but he also got Max Martin got the question: do you always choose who you work with? And so no, sometimes he works. He's a professional, of course, and uh, sometimes he needs to finish the project because he's contracted to do that. It's not
Yeah.
that he can choose and pick whatever he wants to. Of
Yeah.
course not.
Well, I don't want to wear you out, but this was fantastic. I hope we can continue this
Yeah,
regularly. And I'll send you an email and try to get the contact for the songwriting teacher.
mhm. That would be good, and we set something up.
Yeah.
And have you ever been to Sweden?
I went to Stockholm one day, I think. I went to Viitasaari for a Time of Music festival in Finland. In the
Mm.
summer once, a new music festival. I went to grad school in computer music and did weird electronic music and went there and gave a concert. And then after that, I think I know I went to Stockholm, but I can't remember anything about it.
Yeah. You should come here, and especially in the summer. It's nice here in the summer.
Yeah, yeah.
The winter is long.
I definitely want to spend some time in Scandinavia.
Yeah. And I'll be happy to visit you in Indiana anytime in the future when the COVID is over, and
Yeah,
maybe in connection with the next mayor, whenever that is. So,
yeah. We have some beautiful studios. We have 10,000 square feet of studios, wonderful production facilities. We live an hour and a half, hour and 10 minutes from Sweetwater. Yeah, they're the largest, second largest, whatever, music retail online, and they have a fantastic um,
did you talk about Sweetwater
philosophy.
last year
Yes,
at Mayor?
yes, yes.
Yeah, I remember you talked there. That was very interesting.
I'll send you the article that I expanded from that. I got to interview um, the CEO and 2 people. So anybody who's interested in business and customer service,
Mhm.
they're growing 20% every year. They must be doing something right. And it's
Yeah.
the same sort of thing of they're musicians who love music and want to help people achieve their dreams. It's not about making money. And by doing that, they've made a lot of money.
Mhm.
They have a
And
thing
that,
called Gear Fest in June. It's 2-day open music trade festival. It's like NAMM, but it's free and nicer, and they give away bottles of water, and it's manageable. You can go around and see all the vendors and see the Sweetwater difference. So if you have a choice of when to come to Indiana, that would be a fun thing to come see.
that would be really nice. And I think that it's not about making money. That is, if you that's not the quote from Max Martin, but it
Yeah.
could be really. It's the same philosophy very much.
And I think one of the big takeaways from our conversation is to have fun. I,
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that's really missing in my life now. I work hard, I've gotten really focused, and I'm producing a lot, but I try to think of what did I do today that was fun, and most days there wasn't anything that was fun. And I think it should start with taking a little guitar and sticking it behind bottles in a bar somewhere and having my friend go to try to track it down.
Well, I'm in my office, and I try to make it more. I'll show you around here so you see. Yeah. This is here. You got my double bass. I'm hanging clothes on it right now,
Nice.
and a guitar. So this is my. This is also my fun. Here you got
I
uh,
wanted to ask you about that, your productivity system. It seems like you've you've your different colored notes and your columns.
Yeah, uh, this is actually the plans for for a movie.
Oh
So
wow.
this is not music. These
What's the
are
movie about?
it's called Delta Lady, about a woman singing the blues in the delta of Karlstad in Lake Vänern in Sweden. So
It
it's
reminded me of Leon Russell's song called Delta
yeah,
Lady.
exactly, and that's where I got it. You can imagine why I look like this. No, I haven't had a shave for
You're
six
trying to
months.
look like Leon Russell? You got a
Yeah,
ways to go, man.
I saw him on the last tour, on his last tour when
Oh
he
my
came.
gosh.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And there was a guy last year at Maya doing a presentation on Leo Russell. Did you see that?
I did not.
No, I don't remember his name. No, that was Leo Russell. Is very, I think, very interesting person in the modern music history.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know Jacob Collier?
No.
The 25-year-old Jacob Collier, Collier.
No.
I'll send you a link. He's the most talented musician alive today, in my opinion. You know, he's an amazing arranger, and he has a music room in his parents' house where he has all his instruments set up, and he just does just the most imaginative, creative, mind-blowing harmony stuff.
Cool.
But
No.
you'll really enjoy it, and it's all about fun as far as I can tell.
Yeah. No, that's the most important thing and that's why I have learned really from this research project to have fun.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, let's leave it there, and it's really
Yeah.
been fun and great. So thank you so much for
Enjoy
sharing
very much
all that.
talking to you.
Yeah,
Yeah. And we'll keep in touch. Yeah.
let's do that.
Okay.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Okay.
Nice
Cheers.
meeting you. Thanks so
Nice meeting you.
much.
Thank you
Bye
so
bye.
much. Bye
Bye.
bye.